Welcome back to segment 2 on News from the Real World podcast. I'm Quinn.
I'm Jody.
I'm Titra.
And we're starting off this segment with Titra interviews. We've been having a lot of articles about interviews.
Recently, every week about interviews, and this week will be how to talk about your workplace weakness on interview. And it's from thegreatstone.com by Jessica Sager, and this is a student pick. So about how to talk about weakness on your interview. Well, I feel surprised about this article when I read it because they mention about do not instead of because what I've been knowing before is that you do not tell your weakness directly what your weakness is.
Well, but it is a common interview question.
Yes,
explain to me your weaknesses.
But
what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses?
Yes, but they want to in the past they would teach us when they ask you this question, you better ask them in the way that my weakness is I am being quite a perfectionist person.
Yeah, that's
which
the
is
cliched response.
No, they're not looking for something like that.
They want you to be honest, but at the same time you can't look like a putz.
Right?
You're like, well, I'm lazy. You can't say that.
Yes, and so they say you can mention some kind of weakness that is somehow linked to the kind of job that you apply for. They don't even they won't care if you apply for finance.
If you're I can't spell.
I can't spell. They don't care about that. They care about if you cannot calculate and stuff, things like that. And
I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't get a lot out of this.
I didn't get a lot out of this article either.
Quite frankly,
But
sorry.
I think that the most redeeming thing they did say in this article I found was that they said if you're going to highlight a weakness, if you're going to discuss a weakness, because you shouldn't dodge the question, discuss how you overcome the weakness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
that's probably more important than what the weakness is.
Right.
You can say, I struggle with deadlines, but this is what I do to to help with that.
Right.
They see that you're trying to overcome your weakness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're just not, falling into a pit of
I read the title.
incompetency.
I don't know what my problem is, but the title of the article was misleading to me. I thought based on the title of the article, I thought the article was going to be about how to how to speak positively about the negative things at the last place you worked.
That was I thought.
That's what I thought it was going to be about, because I feel like that's a common thing lately. You can't talk about the last job you had in a negative way.
Right. Because then that puts out the idea, well, what are they going to do when they leave here?
Yeah,
Well, not only
talk
that,
about,
but
bad things about our company too.
Well,
Yeah.
not only that, but the industry we work in is so small that odds are the person you're interviewing with knows people and knows how the last organization you worked for operates, and they can
Right.
either affirm or deny your claim.
Well, this takes us to another workplace article. This, too, is a student pick. It's from 99u.com by Todd Henry, and it's entitled, Get Over Yourself, How Your Ego Sabotages Creativity. What'd you guys get out of this article? It talks about all the ego trappings.
I thought it was okay. I was not overwhelmed by it. I liked his example about the kids playing when they were making the rules about
and how we have an adult equivalent to being like, well, I'm taking my ball and just going home.
yeah.
And it talks about ego trap number one,
yes.
playing the victim. And that's the moment when, well, nobody's really taking my ideas from the group, so I'm just going to shut down and step away,
Right.
Which we've all probably done at some point.
Yeah.
When
Right.
nobody's
Lots of
listening,
times
no
we've
one's
done
using
that.
it. And
Right.
it's about getting over the ego of just feeling like your ideas need to remain on the table at all
Uh-huh.
times,
I think we've seen this on the Green Page before. I think it was in that Pixar article about the success of the creativity at Pixar a while
Right.
back.
All right.
And he talked about how collaboration was one of the things that made them so successful, and how there is no room for ego. And I remember reading this article and thinking about. I think the thing I walked away from was the thing I walked away from most of this article was about risk, I think, and how you, like, the biggest room for creativity is when there's the biggest kind of room for failure, when there's the biggest room for, when the biggest risk being taken. That's kind of what I walked away with this article with.
Well, it goes on further to pinpoint two other ego traps. Aggressive defense of your turf. And then it goes on about the difference between confidence and ego, and how a confident person says, well, I can do a good job. I believe I can do a good job. And then the ego-driven person says, well, I'm doing the best job.
Right.
You know?
Probably
Right.
sometimes they
Yeah.
can.
Which to me was not only an ego thing, but that was it was an optimist pessimist thing too.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was we can do it this way instead of we have to do it this way.
Right.
You know, it was a little bit more.
And then it talks about another ego trap of being easily offended. You know, just taking criticism so personally that one can't even really discuss your work with you.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
this goes back to your second rule about protecting your turf, and especially in what we do, people just get so invested. And how do you tell someone not to be invested in what they do?
Well, you know,
You know,
we're all in the theater, and you know, we're probably more attuned to the team playing mentality that says, well, you know, we're all trying to solve the problem together, so it's really the best idea in the room is the idea that stays, and there's nothing personal about it, you know? I don't know. Darlene Carey writes, it seems that these attributes can also be part of low self-esteem, our way of propping up a fragile self-image. Truer words. That brings us on to our next article, Atitra.
Yes.
It's an interesting blog.
On being a little person.
Yes.
From holicium.wordpress.com, and this is an editor pick. So it's like some kind of like blogs about this actress, 24-year-old actress who's part of the. Have you seen Miley Cyrus VMA performance?
You know, I'm the
Like
only
this-
person in
I've never
America
seen it.
that
I've never
hasn't
seen
seen it.
it.
You're the second person in America. that
Actually, I
hasn't
haven't seen it before, so I was
Wow,
like,
how is
we
that
all
possible?
never seen that before,
We've
so I
not
was
seen
like,
it.
I look it on YouTube, and this is kind of like I don't know, the theme is about a bear or whatever
Yeah,
it is, but
yeah.
like Miley showed up, and it's like the whole like group, like whole bunch of bears
She had they hired
the stage.
all these little people to
Yes.
wear bear
Like,
costumes
bear
and
costumes.
dance.
Like it's like a cartoon bear, like walking around the stage up and down, like Miley do her stuff,
It's
whatever
almost
she's gonna do.
The blog talks about it's almost. I mean, she doesn't say these words, but she makes her feel like she's in a little person minstrel show or something.
Feels more like
Yeah.
a prop than a person
Yeah.
in a show. So it's
Dehumanizing.
yes. So it's kind of like she feels so like bad, she's like frustrated. She's like, why? Like, because I studied to be an actress, I was kind of like this, and this is the first time that I was like, I feel like I was treated like so bad
Yeah.
and stuff. And so
And then she was in a conundrum about they wanted to bring her on the Miley Cyrus tour.
again, and then
Yeah.
she was like, do I
Today.
want to be like treated like that again? So
The
she's
money
feeling
was
like
good.
the money was good, she can like live with that, but then I don't want to be treated like this again. So she
Yeah.
was like, she decided, no, I'm not gonna
Wasn't
go.
worth it.
No. So
That's good. You have to
You-
know your own
You have to know your
self-value.
values, which you really
Yeah.
won't compromise. It's like
You
Is
didn't
that
like
cause-
this article though. You thought she was whiny.
I was not really a huge fan of this article, no, because
I found it sort of touching, actually.
it was. I just kind of felt she was a little victimized. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say
Yeah,
it.
but I thought she made a good point of being like, I don't look down on other little people that choose to make their entertainment careers in this way, but it's just not for me. you know?
No, I agree with that, but at the same time, and you're right, that was very nice, but I thought
Well, that's the pat response of the week. Thank you, Jody. This pat response is brought to you by Jody Cohen.
That's like, you can't you can't complain about the work you're not getting if you're turning down work. You know,
Yeah,
I feel
right.
like the top of the article was about how she gets 2%. She gets to go to 2% of the auditions that all of her other actress friends get to go to. And you know, they tell you, you know, one of my first days in undergrad, we had a conversation. It was a communications degree, so we were talking about advertising and publicity and all this kind of stuff. And my professor said, you know, the first job he was offered out of college was working for a cigarette company, and his dad, you know, had died of lung cancer from smoking for cigarettes for a really long time, and he took that job because it was food on the table, you know,
Sure.
and he worked selling cigarettes for a really long time, and he hated it, and he had to leave, but you know, he put his time in, and now he worked his way up, and now he's a, you know, tenured professor, and you know, it's great. But like, so I think it's great that I really admire that she stuck to her values. That is awesome. But I don't think that I just have limited tolerance for the whininess, I guess, about.
I know.
And I just
Jody's
think,
not
I
a
just
friend to the little people.
but she could create her own work, you know.
Right.
She could create her own work, like the rest of us do,
That's,
right?
that is what I think too. I mean,
Oh.
you kind of complain on things that like too many people out there. They kind of get a job, and you get it,
And then you turn it,
And
then you
then
turn
you
it down.
turn it
down.
Like I mean, maybe they weren't. Maybe
you gotta
they
know
weren't.
what your price is. and I think
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the-
I think it's
point of this
wonderful.
article.
I think it's wonderful that she knows her values and she won't compromise them. There's actually a quite priceless quality to that. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. But like, I just think there's little room for her to complain about not getting other work. Unless she's going to use this to say, you know, oh, well, I turned down the Miley tour so that I could do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, how much is that really going to influence someone else hiring her? Because they weren't hiring her for her face, they were hiring her for her size.
Yeah. To put her in a bear costume.
You
and
don't see
dance
me-
around.
You don't see me writing a blog about how hard it is to be tall. That's all I'm saying.
And there you have it. That concludes this segment of News from the Real World podcast. I'm Quinn. The terrible person to my left is Jody Cohen, and to my right is Atitra. Thank
Am
you
I a
all.
terrible person too?
No, you're a nice person. You're a nice person. Bye.
Bye.
I will say though, I don't know how we managed to talk for 4 minutes about this article.